I knew that this was going to happen eventually. I was sitting in my room and I desperately wanted to just have a game possess me for a while. So, with Monster Hunter Wilds not really having any more content for me to explore, I decided to try out GU. I quickly figured out how to get an emulator and to get the game for the PC. And I tried it for the first time. After playing for some hours and finally feeling like I wanted to put the controller down, I looked out the window. It was 7 a.m. in the morning. I could see the light of day starting to come up from the horizon. I had played Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for almost 16 hours non-stop. And this was the first time that I tried it. So yeah, today's video is gonna be about my impressions of GU and just in general the tremendous contrast that this experience has shown me when you compare that even GU, which is supposed to be 5th gen, you can compare it to Monster Hunter World and Rise and the new titles, and you can see the stark differences between the design decisions. So, first of all, obviously GU is a game that doesn't have like a high level of graphical fidelity, but it really does not matter. I couldn't care less about that because the gameplay is just stellar. And so, one of the first things that called my attention was this whole thing about the styles. You know, you have different weapons with different styles and hunter arts. And the truth is that the idea of styles is something that we have seen in New Gen, for the most part in Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, where they give you a bunch of options to customize the way that you play. But the truth is that just in general, styles are like this cool addition to allow you to play the weapon with slightly different changes in gameplay that still manage to make the experience refreshing. And because I'm such a one-weapon Andy, obviously, I mostly played with Charge Blade. I am playing like, I think it's, I'm playing Adept Charge Blade, I think. And for the most part, it has been amazing. Weapon combos are not very complicated from what I've seen. For example, I also tried Switch Axe, and Switch Axe has a very simple combo. It's like, people complain that in Wilds you spam triangle until the monsters are dead, and Switch Axe is kind of like that. Now, granted, I am obviously very inexperienced with that weapon, but for the most part, that's what I was doing, especially when I was farming Malfestio later on. But yeah, okay, so one thing that I have to make clear is that I went in completely blind. I didn't want to check any guides. I didn't want to check any kind of instructions as to what to do in the game, because I wanted to see just how good is GU at onboarding new players in a time where you could still see a lot of the old gen designed in the game. And for the most part, I wouldn't say that the game does a bad job at onboarding players. The only problem is that you really have to pay attention to the things that are presented to you, especially in text, especially in the dialogues. I think that sadly this type of design has become really incompatible with today's design. People want to understand things as fast as possible, and simply sitting there reading instructions or reading tutorials. Like, even back in the day, people would skip tutorials, but they would still at least stop to read what the NPCs had to say, mostly to have a general understanding of what is going on. And I feel like today, there's this whole just resistance or complete disregard for the information that can be presented to you via text, which can sometimes be vital to your experience. So I've managed to have a fairly good experience only by reading what the NPCs are telling me to do, or by reading the different tutorials. But I understand that it's very likely that there's a bunch of things that I'm still not getting from the game, because, you know, it's just, Monster Hunter has always been like this. There's some things that you're not really going to understand just right away, unless somebody tells you about them, or unless you've been playing for so long that you eventually stumble upon it, right? Now, the combat. Monster Hunter has always been praised by the combat, and to be fair, GU holds extremely well. That said, I can completely see that old gen can be very frustrating for people that have played mostly new-gen games. And this is because everything is a lot more stiff, but at the same time, it's simple, yet deep. And this is a concept that I think we have to embrace more just in general. I think the reason why Monster Hunter Combat is so good is because it's not particularly difficult, despite the meme that Charge Blade is this like fucking 200 IQ weapon. The game plan that you're following is rather straightforward, and it's if you can reduce the weapon to its more important elements, you will find that it is not particularly difficult to play it, and like finding that simplicity is where you can find the true depth of many of the weapons in the game, right? Now, I will give it to old gen that the games were extremely punishing just in general. A lot of people like to rave about this idea that restocking is like killing difficulty, but I don't think that's an argument that can hold up very well, mostly because I can see the intention for devs to give you different options to have more healing items, right? You can still craft on the go, at least in GU. You can do this thing where you zone out. You know, you go to a different zone to take some distance from the monsters, so that you can have some breathing space to heal, sharpen, do whatever you want, and then you come back. And I think that in new gen, they have just designed things differently so that you can still take that distance. You can still run away from the monster a lot faster than what they can follow you. And with that, you can potentially manage your resources like healing and sharpening and whatnot, without having the monster be on top of you. So I think that's an aspect that still remains. It simply has a different format now. And I think it's because the Monster Hunter devs know that it can be extremely frustrating to deal with the onslaught of attacks that the monsters, even in low rank, in the case of GU, can sometimes throw at you, right? So in that sense, it's very interesting to see that for the most part, there's a lot of design aspects that haven't really changed in essence, but they have changed in the way that they are presented. And at least, for example, going from GU to World, the way that they handled it was genius, because it was still keeping that level of threat, that feeling of pressure that the monster can put out towards you, but you still have tools to completely outrun them and to be able to avoid that constant pressure. Another aspect that really surprised me is that, well, you know how people complain that in Wilds, for example, there's not enough weight to status effects, and in GU it is the complete opposite. Like, if a monster has the paralysis element, they will paralyze you in 1 or 2 hits. Like, it's gonna be a problem that you have to deal with to try and avoid getting paralyzed. If a monster has sleep element, if a monster has like a lot of KO damage, they will inflict status effects extremely quickly. And you know how in base World, there were a lot of monsters that could poison you, and then if you go to Iceborne, there's like level 2 poison, right? Where you start losing health like extremely fast. For example, people that fought Viper Tobi Kadachi would find themselves against this problem, right? Where Tobi would poison you once, but then if you're hit with another poison attack, you would get like this really strong poison that will destroy you in a couple of seconds. I think, I'm not sure, that that type of mechanic in GU applies for most ailments. And you can see it in the icon showing like 1 dot of poison or 1 little flame, right, on the icon. And then if you get hit again with another poison or fire attack, you will see two icons of poison or 2 icons of flame, which kind of hints at the possibility that, you know, they can stack status ailments to the point that they can inflict you with a lot more damage and pressure if you keep getting hit without cleansing them, which is something that I found very interesting. The biggest thing for me when it comes to this difference is just how this makes it so that now you have to respect the monster a lot more. I like the fact that New Gen is trying to encourage the hunter or the players to be a lot more aggressive and to have the possibility to keep that aggression if they know the monster behavior well enough. But I think that every time that you face a monster for the first time, there has to be this moment where you're like, okay, I cannot just like charge head on and do whatever I want. I have to think, how am I going to approach things? I have to be careful with the way that I interact with this monster. If the monster has paralysis, if they have poison, if they have like high aggression, if they have like a very erratic moveset, all of those things will force you to respect the monster, and you cannot just disregard their moveset or their different characteristics. You have to play around them, at least at the beginning. And that is something that I would like to see more in Monster Hunter just in general. Now, you might be thinking that, I'm comparing the low rank experience from GU with the high rank experience of Wilds, and that's kind of weird. I think one of the best aspects of Monster Hunter is this feeling of scale. Scale in Monster Hunter can be extremely important to convey what exactly is the experience that you should be looking for in this game from the get-go. One of the biggest problems that I have, for example, with the way that World of Warcraft has completely changed the player experience is that, well, this is a problem that I have with MMOs in general, right? Is that a lot of MMOs put the focus on their progression systems and in the overall experience in the end game. Meaning that you are not really playing the game when you're at level 1. You, quote-unquote, start playing the game when you have already put 100 hours into it and you get to max level, and then it's like the progression curve starts, right? Which I think, back in the day I wouldn't really think much of it, but today I feel like I don't like that. I like when a game shows you from the very start what is the experience that they are offering to you. And in GU, when you start, the feeling of scale that you can get from different things, like for example upgrading your weapon from the first level to the second level, it has such a big impact in your gameplay that you want to engage with things like crafting and gathering from the very start. It's not like you can bulldoze through things. You get these meaningful interactions from the beginning. So you start with very low resources. You start with really bad gear, right? You get really low quality gear, and the moment that you can get your hands on a couple of upgrades, the feedback from the game immediately gives you a feeling of impact behind those upgrades. It's like you go from the basic weapon to the first upgrade of that weapon, and you can immediately start seeing the monsters flinching more, or maybe getting stunned more easily, or like going from the basic armor to the very first pieces of armor that you can get, and you can immediately start seeing how much your damage taken is lowered by a simple stat such as armor, as like defense, right? So even if at low rank you cannot get your hands on a lot of like skills, you still have elements that are very impactful to your experience and your gameplay that you can engage with from the very start. These things matter from the very first moment. If I upgrade my weapon or my armor, they have such a big impact in my experience that I want to look for those elements and I want to engage with them right now. I don't have to wait to get to the end game to start making these things matter. They matter right now. And that is the best thing that I felt the first time that I played GU. And to some degree, I also felt that when I was playing like World and Iceborne and Rise. Upgrades mattered. They could really change your experience from the very beginning. And that is, to me, it's amazing. It's so good because it puts you on the progression treadmill and it lets you appreciate the scale of things, which is something that today has been a little bit lost with new gen design. And that is an experience that I think should be, part of the core elements of the general Monster Hunter experience always, right? So that's one thing that I really liked about GU. The other thing is, well, as I said before, the whole idea that you have to respect the monsters. Monsters, even in low rank, can be so fucking brutal, man. And because you have so little resources at this point, like at the beginning, having to manage your healing is quite important. Like, I even played a little bit with like healing files, because that allowed me to save a bit of money and a bit of potions, right? I was using the healing files Hunter art with the Charge Blade simply because that meant that I could save a little bit in potions, right? So
those things, for example, are little interactions that I think can give you this feeling that when you get to Monster Hunter for the first time, you're nobody. And there's this huge ecosystem that doesn't really care about you. You get there, you are the outlander, you are the outsider, right? And you're trying to establish a good base of operations and a good stock of resources. But that takes time. So you have to make that journey to stack on resources and stack on different items and on different materials for your upgrades and things. And the best part about GU that I know a lot of people don't like, but the reason why I think it works in GU is because they know that when you start, you're pretty much butt naked. So they throw you, at the beginning, they throw you to a couple of like gathering quests. They don't make you fight monsters immediately, which, to be fair, in World, when they did that, it was okay, because they also give you a lot of resources on like the supply box, and you can also like craft a lot more things on the go in World, for example, right? So I think that's fine. But in GU, you know, it's part of the experience that you have limited resources. So the first thing that they make you do is, you know, just go on a couple of gathering quests and stock up a little bit on different materials and different resources so that you can have healing items and you can have materials for upgrades, so that when you get hunting, you at least have some things to work with, which is just very good design. Is simply very, very good design. I am extremely pleased and surprised with how well implemented everything is in GU, despite the huge level of jank that the game still has. Because I'm having a great time. To be honest, just the game is so fun to me. But I'm not gonna pretend here like the game doesn't have a lot of junk, because it still carries a lot of that old gen design. Like, animations are extremely stiff. You cannot buffer a lot of moves from the weapons. You have very simple combos too. Like, your basic combos are pretty straightforward for the most part. The monsters have really weird animations where sometimes it feels like the attacks are like frame zero attacks. So like they start immediately and you can never see them coming, right? But apparently that has to do with the fact that the tells for the different attacks are a lot more subtle in GU, right? It's not like in World where, for example, Rathian in GU will fucking just spin suddenly and you will get hit by the tail. But in World, you can see how Rathian is like wiggling the tail a little bit before she starts spinning. So those differences, I think, is something that I really struggled with, because I was really used to having the monsters really announce their attacks, right? The amount of polish that they've put in New Gen when it comes to the posture, you know, the posturing of the monsters when they are about to do the attacks, I think is something that should be appreciated more. And I can really appreciate it more now thanks to GU, because in GU a lot of the animations are still really, really jank, and they just come out of nowhere, you know? So it's not like I haven't had a level of frustration with a couple of things that I've seen in the game so far. I think that for the most part things, you know, work well, but there are a couple of things that make you say, okay, this is probably the way that this monster was designed from the inception of the franchise, and the devs probably don't really want to work too much on the moveset and to polish it to the degree that you can easily identify what they are doing. So I struggled a lot with some monsters, especially the ones that I met for the first time. For example, the shark monster, I don't remember the name, the shark monster on the desert, very big guy, or bro, like I think I'm finally starting to get why so many people are so like devoted to fucking Nibblesnarf, right? Such a silly fucking fight, dude. But like it also had its frustrations, but when I got it, I was like, all right, this is pretty fun, to be honest. So yeah, all those different things, you know. Even when it seems that the resources to design the monsters were rather limited, maybe for the engine or for different reasons, they still go the extra mile to make sure that the monsters' personalities are really well conveyed. There's another monster that I fought later on, not in my first, not in the first time that I played the game, but just later on. That's like a snake monster, a very big snake monster. And the way that it coils around you and it tries to trap you like on its body, it's just such a cool detail that conveys the snake-like personality of this monster, you know? We all know that Monster Hunter has always been amazing at paying attention to detail when it comes to monster behavior, so just something else that I think even back in old gen is still extremely well polished, and it's just such a charming element of the game. As for the limitations, you know what? A lot of people say like, oh, restocking makes the game so easy, blah blah blah, and they are probably right, because restocking can be, I think I'm appreciating how strong it is in new gen, right? If you run out of items during a hunt, it's not like you can just leave the hunt and come back, because you don't get to save the items that you got from the quest. If you abandon a quest, any items that you get from that quest, or that you were gathering or like storing up in that quest, will be lost. So this means that essentially you have to defeat the monsters if you want to take the rewards with you. And because of that, sometimes I would underestimate just how many resources I would need for a hunt, and that meant that I would run out of items, which meant that then I would have to find ways to create or craft more healing items on the go, which meant that then I could just spend too much time doing that and the timer could run out. So definitely another layer to the experience that I don't think I had to live much in new gen. I'm not sure if I would like that on the new Monster Hunter games. I think it can, you know, it can stay on old gen, to be honest. But I still appreciate what they were trying to do with this, which is basically, you better fucking prepare to what's coming, or, and if not, better not even try to do it at all. Preparation is something that you really had to carefully consider when going out in a hunt, because then if you go out and you don't have enough items to basically rise to the challenge, you will probably fail, and that means that you lost a bunch of resources and also the possible rewards that you could have gotten from the quest. So definitely a rather punishing aspect of Monster Hunter in old gen, but I don't mind at all. Now, I do feel that GU can be very frustrating for people that only like new gen type of design. There's so many things that I think were just kind of antiquated type of design that I don't think they would hold up very well today. And that really shows you just how daring the devs of Monster Hunter are when it comes to changing things that can help for accessibility, especially when that accessibility can improve the experience overall. Obviously, I can make comparisons all day, but I think that for the most part, what I appreciate of GU is that it is such a different experience for new gen Monster Hunter that, you know, it allows you to have a complete different spin and a very refreshing experience to this franchise compared to what you can find in new gen. Which is great, because honestly I was like looking for something like this, and apparently GU has so much content. Like I've been playing for like 30 hours now, and I'm still in low rank. And I'm still like in 4-star quests or something, I don't remember. So yeah, I wanted to make a video about this mostly to share my thoughts, because GU was such an incredible surprise, and it's been so much fun to play it that, shit, I mean, it's probably gonna be the game that I'm gonna be playing throughout the year while we wait for the content to appear in Wilds, right? Now I know that, you know, TU2 is coming up. I'm probably gonna like interact with it. I'm gonna do like Lagiacrus, I'm gonna do Sergios and all of that, because I've already unlocked most of the things that I wanted from Monster Hunter, from Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm probably gonna be playing a lot of GU. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video sharing my thoughts and my impressions about GU. Not something very scripted, again, I just wanted to put it out there. And I do wonder, because, you know, I used to do streaming like a couple of years ago. I would stream Lost Ark on Twitch, but then I kind of got frustrated with Twitch, so I moved on to just making YouTube videos. Now, I do wonder if you guys would like to see me stream someday, because the problem that I have right now is that I cannot really stream Wilds. It's just not possible, my rig cannot support it, but GU is just such a, you know, it's a much less demanding game when it comes to resources. So I think that maybe I can probably stream it just to have a chat, just to talk to people, just to have some conversation with the people that have joined to my channel lately. I think that could be a lot of fun. I would really like to talk to you guys at some point. So let me know in the comments if that would be something that you would like to see. And if not, it's also fine, to be fair. I'm going to continue playing GU probably until I can reach the end game, just because it's been such an incredible experience, and I did want to recommend it to more people if you find yourself with nothing to do. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys are doing fine out there. I really hope that you can get all the fun that you've been expecting with the upcoming title updates. And well, as always, my name is Sun, and until next time.